called Beacon Hill, stretching north almost to Mackenzie Avenue and UVic, was covered in fields of camas flowers tended by the Lekwungen or Songhees people. When James Douglas of the Hudson's Bay Company steamed past this place in 1843, the purple camas flowers reminded him of England. So, although CUUC's harbor was more suitable to Hudson Bay operations, Douglas set up Fort Victoria here because it is lovely. You might think that the foregoing does not have a lot to do with our congregation, but I want to honor the fact that local history did not start in 1843 and did not start 30 years ago with capital, but rather 3,000 years ago. I'm going to do three things this morning. I'm going to talk about UUism in Victoria. Then we're going to look at some photos. And then I'll talk briefly about stewardship. When did the Unitarian presence start in Victoria? In 1884, there was a Unitarian circuit minister from Tacoma who gave services here during the year. That's 152 years ago. There are records of Unitarians in Victoria in 1909 and of a Unitarian minister being here in 1911. We had a minister until 1919, and then were lay-led until 1927. I'm not sure why, but that first Unitarian congregation closed down after its June 26, 1927 service. That was 100 years ago. But 76 years ago, a new group began with monthly discussion group meetings in psychiatrist Dr. Douglas Alcorn's office and in members' home. Alcorn called it the Liberal Religious Fellowship of Victoria. And when the charter documents arrived, when he set up the society, the name was written as the Unitarian Fellowship of Victoria. And that group remained small, 14 to 17 members, all adults. But several of those adults had kids, and they wanted to have a children's program. In 1958, there was a charter meeting to make a congregation that could support children's programs, and 38 new members signed up. This group met in rented facilities at the Optimist Hall, which had been the Siemens Hall and is now, what restaurant? Il Covo on Superior Street. In 1963, that name was changed to the Unitarian Church of Victoria. And then 3 years later, in 1966, a group of the congregants put together $30,000 and bought the Siemens Hall. And that congregation was there for almost 30 years. There were a couple of ministers, young ministers, who came and had, Stan has told me some stories of some of the young ministers who came, lasted 1 or 2 or 3 years, and either were caught dating the congregant, who was not his wife, or just having trouble being a good minister, and also moved on. And then we got the Reverend Dr. Felix Lyon. And Rev Felix was a minister here for just 5 years, but his leadership helped to expand the ranks of Victoria Unitarians until even at 2 services on a Sunday, you could do the morning service or the evening service, afternoon service. And with 100 children in the program, the Superior Street building could not hold everyone. So the congregation decided we need to move to something else. Members of that congregation at the time included Bruce Partridge and May Partridge, who had been living in Hong Kong. They're Canadians. Bruce had been the president of UVic, and then they moved to Hong Kong for a few years. And other Unitarians were Conne and Harold Harrison. And all of them were meeting in Superior Street. And all of them had something to do with selling that building and moving out to West Saanich Road. So in 1993, that decision was made, sell the Superior Street building, and then buy a former mental health clinic on 5.5 acres of land on West Saanich Road. For a while after the Unitarians sold Superior Street, the new building wasn't ready. So they met at Alex Goulden Hall, or what is now Alex Goulden Hall, the Metropolitan United Church. gave the Unitarians space. So for the big move of the congregation, there was a group, including Bruce Partridge and May Partridge, who decided they would walk with a chalice and a banner and walk from James Bay, from one congregational building, all the way to West Saanich Road. And Felix Lyon, the minister, retired minister, played the trumpet when the saints go marching in. Not the whole way, though. So that's how that got going. But notwithstanding that beautiful building and lovely location, full-time minister, and 45 years of history, that West Saanich location was difficult to reach for many of the Unitarians who lived in James Bay and either didn't have cars or didn't want to drive. In 1996, one of them, longtime member Margaret Lovesey, prodded Conné and Harold to start a congregation in James Bay. I was chatting with May Partridge, who lives in Comox now, and she writes that Capital began with the pieces of eight members of the big church who decided at the Partridge's house, let's set up another congregation. And Dave Spearman said, how hard could it be to start a new congregation? It turns out it was very hard for a while. So the congregation looked for several places to meet. They looked at some rec centers and some other church buildings. Yeah. Oh, thank you. So this is one of the founding meetings. Bruce Partridge is on the far left in the white t-shirt, and Harold Harrison, who is the chap in the white sweater with the white hat. Harold Harrison was a member of the James Bay New Horizons and of the Rotary Club. So he went to the New Horizons and said, can we rent this on Sunday mornings? And they said, and the New Horizons rented it to the Unitarians for the same rate for 25 years until COVID. Yes?
Is that Conné in red?
Yes.
Is that Conné in red? Thank you, Pauline. And then sitting to our left of Harold with the white hat is
Ian Riddell.
Ian Riddell, who was our music director and is now the Unitarian minister in Coachella Valley at Palm Springs. Yeah, you remember, you were in his choir.
Is that right?
So my brother used to go to Palm Springs before the current president, and would go to services of Ian Riddell's.
I contacted Ian, and he sent me this photo, actually.
So Dick sent this photo for this event. What's the next photo? Okay, leave this up and I'll get to it. So the Unitarians, this small group of 8, had meetings at the Bent Mast pub. How shocking, to have a church meeting in a pub, and decided on how the services would go and what the order of service would be, and even what would be the name of the congregation. And they decided that they wanted not just Unitarian, but Unitarian-Universalist. So after discarding a few other options, they chose Capital Unitarian-Universalist Congregation. Conné Harrison had Jewish roots and favored congregation rather than church, to be inclusive of all the Jews who would come to Unitarianism. So in March of 1996, 50 people came to Capital Unitarian Universalist Congregation's first meeting, and the congregation was official. Bruce and May were such administrators, they didn't want to have any sort of interim status. They wanted to go straight in as a congregation, and to do that, they had to get 50 people. So Evelyn Buell and Marian Nyland came together, and we needed a banner. So May Partridge asked her daughter, Sheila, to design a banner, and then Maria sewed it. It is a dark green banner on this back wall, dark green with the gold flashy. That was our first banner. It's still kind of delicate, and we didn't after 20 years or so, didn't want to travel with it anymore. So the banner further down there that's bright blue, that's a banner that can be scrunched up. It's made of recycled pop bottles. And it can be scrunched up and then unfolded at a conference. They also, Capital Unitarians got involved in social justice, and that's what the furthest to the right banner that just says Capital Unitarian-Universalist Congregation with the holes in it, that's a banner for putting up or for marching with. There was a choir, and the choir had 14 singers led by Ian and Dr. John Limbert on piano. Just going to go back 3 or 4 slides. One more. There. Evelyn Buell and John Limbert. And after a while, John brought his sister-in-law, Lee. And Lee's been coming ever since. And next photo. And this, Belle Paul and Harold Harrison. Belle and her husband had been, she was a social worker in California, and they moved to Canada to retire, and then the old fella died. So Belle was a member of our congregation and even a board member. And if you're ever at Pacific Opera Victoria, sometimes the February or March opera is supported by the Belsonia Belgotten Paul Foundation, and that's Belle Paul. So let's just stay on that photo for a minute. During the spring of 2001, Capital UU congregation almost fell apart. But a group of committed individuals worked together to steward things. Connie, Bruce and May, Ben Dolph, Victoria Forsch, Alan Dawson, Elizabeth Atchison, Michelle Poirier, Norma Tenner, Shirley Mazerol, and others kept the chalice burning. Not just for themselves, but because they saw the benefits for community if Capital continued to exist. To steward this congregation, to nurture and care for it, the leaders of the day decided to concentrate on 3 areas: to make Sunday services as good as they could, to make sure our financial house is always in order, and to make sure that the routine administration would get done. Just when Capital congregation needed them, Amanda and Graham Tarling and their 3-year-old Gemma moved here from Kingston, Ontario, ready to start a new life in Victoria. Graham liked doing finance and accounting, and Amanda was an administrator. After discussions at board meetings and in the forum, on many Sundays, the board decided to hire Amanda to be the administrator and Graham as the bookkeeper. Add pianist Kim Cousineau, a childminder named Wendy Hewitt, who is now a librarian in Kingston, and equipment manager Michael Hammond to the mix, and Capital was starting to look like a beehive of staff. This congregation needed those critical people, because although we are happily lay-led with no clergy, we like to have good music, chairs and equipment in place, and working, and we like to know that the mail is being dealt with, and appropriately. These are significant parts of the week-to-week stewardship of our community of faith and friends, and they are paid for by our abundance. Now let's look at the next photo. And the next one after this. There. Christmas 2004. So 2001, the congregation almost fell apart. Many people quit. But by Christmas 2004, we had a congregation again. Let's see here. This description of who these people are.
Well, there's John.
Is anyone holding
Oh, yeah.
a laser pointer?
In the front row, everyone except bearded John Bullyblank and his son Juan have passed away. On the far right is Rustam Patel with the white beard. He was a member of the congregation until he died at age 105. We had a celebration of his 100th birthday, and we had the greetings from the Lieutenant Governor and the Prime Minister. The note from the Queen came a little later on, and I took it to his apartment. And he read it, and he chuckled, and then he looked around behind me and he says, "She didn't come?" Next slide. That's the banner that's in the back, in use. I wasn't able to find out what parade they were in, but by looking at the people and knowing some of these people, I figure it was about peace or social responsibility.
Pride parade.
I don't think that's the Pride Parade, Pauline, but maybe it is. Okay.
I don't think the pride.
Leen Patel, Shirley Mazerol, Mary Carlisle, Eileen Crawford, Elizabeth Atchison, Alan Dawson, and Rustam Patel, stewards of our congregation for many years. Next slide, please.
Yeah, the city hall.
For the 10th anniversary, here are some of the co-founders, May Partridge, Bruce Partridge, and Connie Harrison, slicing up the cake. Next slide. October 2007, we're gaining vitality. The three little kids sitting on the floor with Lee are Zenon, Juan, and Jasmine. And they're all fine young people today. I'd like to think in part because of their Unitarian upbringing. The seated man with the dog is the painter Ted Harrison, who did lovely art for the congregation and privately for members. So if you've ever received a birthday card from Capitol, it's Ted Harrison's painting of this congregation, and the original is at the greeters table. Next slide. In February 2013, partly because we wanted to head off the next train wreck in congregational life, the Canadian Unitarian Council sent a consultant, the Reverend Antonia Wan. She's in the back left with the big blonde hair, to help the leaders of Capitol with planning and forward direction. She told us that the CUC did not have a magic wand for helping congregations, but she brought a gold wand for inspiration, which Mavis Button is holding in the photo in the front row. The woman in the back row wearing a black sweater is Rosemary Morrison. Rosemary is one of 4 members of this congregation who have become Unitarian ministers, and she's serving in Edmonton now, the Unitarian Church of Edmonton. Next slide.
And the one between
Oh,
those two,
go back.
the one between, sitting right here. Isn't it? Isn't that John?
That's John.
It's John. John's in all of these photos.
Just wanted to point that out.
John.
And Peter, you're Jen.
I'm over here. Diane Lineker. And Alison Benner is in the center, the tall with the reddish hair. Jan Greenwood on the front left. Celso's here on the right. Connie, Mavis, Muriel. And I'm drawing a blank. Anybody? During the coffee time, if you can remember the names of these folks, let me know and I'll label the photos. Next photo. Our long-serving administrator and lay chaplain, Amanda Tarling, here in her happy place, conducting a double wedding in Beacon Hill Park. In the years before the US government allowed same-sex marriage, Victoria was a popular destination for same-sex weddings. And these two had come up from Austin. These 4 had come from Austin, Texas. They were all friends. And that summer, Amanda did 6 weddings of gay and lesbian couples from Austin, Texas. Next slide. On the eve of President Obama signing the law that allowed same-sex marriage in the US, Donald and Perry came to Victoria to be wed. When CBC Radio asked the men why they did not wait another week and get married in their Arizona city, they replied that the anti-gay lobby was strong in the US, and Canada was unlikely to flip-flop on its dedication to equal marriage. So Obama signed the bill the next day, but these guys wanted to be married in Canada, and CBC Radio covered that wedding. Next slide. Dun, dun, dun. Sometimes it feels like a distant memory, but 6 years ago the world switched from in-person to Zoom for everything. The COVID-19 pandemic pushed Capital UU to holding Zoom services and Zoom meetings and Zoom drinks and Zoom dances. Seems like a long time ago.
Yeah.
Next
Going
slide.
from Mexico on Zoom.
You were in from Mexico?
In the pandemic, I
Yeah.
went to Mexico.
In this final slide, an image of Capitol in Norway House as it was when we came to here. After 25 years in James Bay and 18 months in COVID-19 Zoom services, we had found a new home. And this is us, early into our time here. Is there a next slide? Yes, there is. I have 3 quotes to share with you from emails and texts. Steffa Katame, who's working today in Cook Street, all the best for a joyous celebration of a significant milestone. Karen Christie, who is a member of this congregation and the other congregation, sends a note to enjoy the celebration. And then I've got one here that I got just as I was driving, which I know a lot of you have been asking about. This is from Amanda Tarling. Amanda is doing a wedding this morning, so she couldn't be here. Congratulations, Capital. 3 decades of being a home, a family, a place to find community and love. A circle of people who come together to ask the big questions in a safe and loving environment. Look around you. Look at that strength and resilience that makes up Capital. You have been there through challenges. No organization is perfect, but Capital rises like a phoenix, ever renewing itself, ever becoming. On this wonderful anniversary, I am sending my love to each of you. Amanda Tarling. On June 30th, 2025, so almost a year ago, when Amanda stepped down and retired as the administrator, we put together a search committee, me and Lori and John and Sharon. We put the job posting out on Indeed, a platform for work. We got 150 submissions. We created a long list, then a short list. We interviewed 4 candidates. And Pedro, formerly office administrator for Mercy Ships and currently an office administrator at the BC Public Service, accepted the job. And we are so thankful every day. Pedro holds a bachelor's degree in business administration from the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and a diploma in business administration from UVic. Amanda trained him and he started to work last July 1st. For 3,000 years, the Lekwungen people thought this area was lovely and worth working for. In 1843, the Hudson's Bay Company thought that this place was lovely and worth working for. In 1964, James Bay was attractive as the site of the Unitarian Church in the Il Covo restaurant. And 30 years ago, 8 Unitarians felt that they needed to steward a renewed UU presence in downtown Victoria. And today, with a clear sense of why we are here as a religious community, and with visions of our work and worship in the context of decades of Unitarian Universalism, we are now the stewards. Oh, that's right, this is very important. How hard could it be to run a Unitarian congregation? I'll read this for some of you who can't see it. 30 years ago, this is from May Partridge. 30 years ago in Victoria, our friend Dave Spearman said this to my husband Bruce and me. We had been members of a few congregations and we were skilled administrators. And we had been leaders in the church that moved from James Bay to West Saanich Road. So we took up the challenge. 8 of us met in the Bent Mast Pub and planned a renewed UU presence for James Bay. We scoped different locations for renting space on Sunday mornings. We received advice from the Unitarian-Universalist Association. We encouraged friends and neighbors to sign up, and we chose the name Capital. I am proud, and I know Bruce would be proud, that you continue to be a vibrant UU community in downtown Victoria. I'm pleased to learn that Victoria's 2 UU congregations, one that is minister-led and one that is lay-led, have good relations. Happy birthday to Capital. Many happy years to come. And I think with that, I'll end it. So may it be.